Hello, I'm Greg Whitby and I'm here with Christina Lutzi, who's one of our teachers at St John the 23rd Learning Community out at Stanhope Gardens. Welcome.
Thank you, Greg.
Christina, you're doing some interesting things, trying some different ways of approaching contemporary learning and teaching. What's going on in your classroom?
Well, we looked at some NAPLAN data and we worked out that our learners are great at writing long pieces of writing, but the key things that we were missing were getting students to sustain and develop ideas. So last year we endeavoured to create a writing continuum from kindergarten all the way through to year 10, which identifies for students what good writers can do at a midway point in their year group and by the end of that year. So we created an acronym which is SILVER, which stands for Sustaining Ideas, Logic, Vocabulary and Evaluating and Refining. And what we've done is we've put this visible in the learning spaces to give students to make learning visible for them and to show them what good writers can do at different levels of our continuum.
So they're actively involved in this process?
Absolutely. So
and know what's expected of them?
Yep. At the end of last year, we got each student to provide what they believed was their best writing sample, and together with their teacher, they identified where they were on this continuum. Then each student was placed on a data wall in the learning space. So in the primary school, students were identified outside of the classroom, but in the secondary, we put them in the learning space. So each student is identified by a code. So a year 7 student might be Alpha 10, and that student and their teacher are the only two people who know that code. And they're placed on the wall in proximity to where they are on that learning spectrum. And they, on that card, have 2 to 3 goals of ways that they can improve their writing to progress them to the next point.
What happened to change the approach that you're talking, and what happened to your teaching?
Well, we identified that sometimes standing at the front of the room giving all the content to the students, while it may appear to be the hardest process, isn't actually. And so we endeavoured to try and build stronger relationships between the teacher and the learner. And by goal setting and sitting with students one-on-one and discussing their work, we found that changed the way we taught in the classroom. We now spend each lesson sitting with up to 10 to 15 students one-on-one and discussing with them ways that they can improve their writing.
You continue to use this word we, which I think is fantastic. It's not I. So obviously you're doing this as a collaborative thing.
Absolutely.
And did that come naturally? Did you start out teaching that way?
Well, in our context, we teach in agile learning spaces. So at any one point, there's 6 English teachers along with any other external support in the classroom. So we had to find a way to have shared practice. So each learner felt like that they weren't being advantaged or disadvantaged by being with any particular person, and really showed the students that we had a shared approach and practice and belief that each of them was an individual learner that deserved.
So you were modelling it to them while you were doing it as well?
Absolutely.
Oh.
And that process of getting students to set goals, we enhance that by each student has a learning folio with their classroom teacher, and at the beginning of any writing task they place their goal at the top and also place any previous feedback. So we found that we were doing a lot of one-on-one conversation with students, but not always were students able to recall what that feedback was and then apply it. So by embedding that process, we not only now have stronger teachers and student relationships, but peer-to-peer relationships.
Right. So you're building this really dynamic team and working collaboratively. When you first started teaching, did you teach like this?
Absolutely not. I was at the front of the room, my lesson plan, ensuring that I gave all the information that I thought the kids needed to know.
Well, what happened to you, Christina?
I think I slowly realised that the power of teaching comes from one-on-one conversations, knowing your learner, and building connections that empower the learner to know that they can succeed.
Yeah. In the community, you obviously feel supported to do this and try different things. What difference have you noticed in terms of the culture in the school and the way the kids approach their learning?
We've had a big shift at our school to create individual learning spaces for different KLA areas, and the leadership team have basically empowered each subject to take the learning in the direction that they feel best meets the needs of their learners. And so that freedom and autonomy has created, well, it's made us really go back to our core business. What do we want kids to do? We want them to learn, and how do we do that in this learning space? So I think that autonomy to allow teachers to find a shared belief and a shared practice is what is actually driving our shift and change.
I can see the excitement in your eyes, but
Yeah.
what's the thing that most energises you and you enjoy about your work?
Seeing students articulate to you why they've been successful or what they need to do next. And sometimes thinking that you've now become redundant as a teacher because they've got all the, some of the answers is what drives me to go back into that room every day to see success on every student, regardless of ability or, background, that every learner can learn and be the best version of themselves.
What a wonderful way to finish. I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. Well done.
Thank you.